My name is Benita Helen, and I'm 31 years old. If you had walked into my house 6 months ago, you might have thought it was the kind of place built for calm: white walls, organized shelves, candles that actually get lit. But stillness can be deceptive. In renovation work, I've learned that foundations don't crumble all at once. They hairline, they whisper. One day you notice a small crack, and by the time you care enough to look closer, something important is already broken. I own a home renovation business here in Colorado. It's honest work: measure twice, cut once, stay on budget. My mother raised me that way: precision over panic. I have a daughter, Emily, 24, who manages the business accounting. She's the calm to my storm, the only one who knows when I've been staring at invoices longer than I should. And then there was Liam, my boyfriend for 5 years. He's 30, charming in that polished real estate way that used to make sense when he still had listings to sell. When the pandemic hit, his company folded. He told everyone he was taking a break to reset. I wanted to believe him, but resetting stretched into idling, idling into avoidance, and avoidance into something I couldn't quite name yet. That's when Tara Cole came back into the picture, Liam's ex. She used to work in luxury home staging, all perfect hair and curated wine clubs. "We're still friends," he said. "She's part of the industry network." The first time I felt that creeping dissonance, Liam's phone was face down during dinner. He claimed it was out of respect. The third time, I knew it was a wall. I told myself not to invent ghosts, but ghosts have a way of leaving digital fingerprints. It happened on a Thursday. I was sanding cabinet doors in the shop when my phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Marnie. "Benita, you need to see this." The photo showed Liam at a wine bar downtown, sitting far too close to Tara, her manicured hand resting on his arm. Both were smiling like they'd already rewritten the story of who they were. My stomach went quiet. That's how I know I'm about to do something irreversible. I stopped feeling. Instead of storming out or scrolling for more proof, I called my mother. "Hi, Mom," I said, voice steady. "You ever get that feeling that someone's about to take everything you've built?" She didn't even ask who. "If he's planning something, you better plan faster," she said. Her name's Diane, 75, retired financial controller. She taught me how to balance a ledger before I could parallel park. And she doesn't believe in crying over people who underestimate you. "Benita, call Harper Lee," she told me. "Family attorney, quiet, competent, and not afraid of sharp elbows." When I met Harper, she didn't waste time with small talk. "Tell me what you think he's doing," she said. "Not sure yet, but I know what it feels like when someone's building an escape route." She nodded. "Then we build yours faster." Her advice was cold logic wrapped in silk. If you think Liam will come for your assets, move them first, legally. Sell to your mother. Full market value, proper paperwork, real money, notarized. If he tries to challenge it later, it's already airtight. I remember leaving her office under the weight of that sentence, not because it was cruel, but because it was survival disguised as calm professionalism. For the next 2 months, I became meticulous. I sold the house to my mother for $410,000, the Lexus $28,000. Every transaction documented, verified, recorded with the county. The funds moved cleanly through separate accounts. Liam barely noticed. He was too busy networking. That word became his shield. Some nights he'd come home reeking of expensive cologne and guilt disguised as fatigue. He'd kiss my forehead like routine, then fall asleep beside me as if lies could rest easy. Meanwhile, Emily and I kept the business running like a fortress. She didn't ask questions, but she saw the shift, the precision in my spending, the quiet way I started saving receipts twice. One evening, as Liam slipped into his blazer for yet another meeting, I watched him from the kitchen doorway. He smiled, practiced and hollow. "Don't wait up." I smiled back, steady as a carpenter's line. "Oh, I won't." He left, and I exhaled. Somewhere inside, the part of me that used to panic finally went silent. I wasn't chasing answers anymore. I was drafting blueprints for my own safety. That night, while he toasted whatever illusion he'd built with Tara, I transferred the last funds into a new account and labeled it contingency. Because in construction and in love, contingency means you've accepted that something will eventually go wrong. And when it does, you'll already have a plan. 6 months passed. The house looked the same, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. I still paid the bills, cooked the meals, and fixed the leaky faucet Liam kept meaning to get around to. But every sound in that space had shifted. The coffee maker sputtered louder. The front door clicked with a tone I didn't recognize. Even the air conditioner sighed like it knew something I didn't. By then, all my transactions with Mom were complete. The deeds filed, the Lexus title transferred. Harper had checked every clause twice. Legally, my name was clean, protected, invisible where it needed to be. Liam, meanwhile, was lost in his own performance. He started dressing better, buying himself new shirts, talking about opportunities that never quite existed. Tara's name never crossed his lips, but her perfume sometimes lingered on his collar. I didn't confront him. I just watched. You can't argue with someone rehearsing a version of the truth. Then came the text. Liam, we need to talk. Be home at 6. No emojis, no context. Just that clinical tone men use when they think they've already won. When I got home, the scene was already staged. Liam sat at the dining table in a pressed shirt. Across from him, Tara, yes, his ex-turned-wine club colleague, crossed her legs like she owned the place. Next to her, a man in a suit adjusted his tie. Lawyer. Corporate smug type. I didn't even take off my coat. This is new, I said, voice steady. Tara gave a tight smile. We just thought it was time to have an honest conversation. Honesty, I said. Interesting choice of word. Liam cleared his throat. Benita, I think you know things haven't been working. Tara and we've reconnected. Reconnected, like emotional arson, was a networking event. And, he continued, we've decided to move forward together. So here's what's going to happen. He said it like a business proposal. I'm keeping the house, the Lexus, and half of your renovation company. You can keep your tools. For a moment, the room was silent except for the hum of the fridge. Tara's smile curled, as if she expected me to collapse, to beg, to throw something. Oh. Instead, I felt an odd kind of relief, a line snapping in my chest that had been stretched too long. I pulled out a chair, sat down, and folded my hands. Keep it all, I said softly. Liam blinked. What? You heard me. I reached for my keys. You can keep the fantasy. I'll keep my peace. Tara shifted, confused. You're not even going to fight? I smiled. You don't fight a storm when you built the shelter months ago. I stood up, adjusted my jacket, and walked out. Outside, the evening light was fading. The kind of dusky orange that turns everything gold for a second before it darkens. I sat in my truck, hands on the steering wheel, heartbeat steady. Then I called Harper. They made their move, I said. Her voice sharpened instantly. And? I told them to keep it all. A short pause. Then Harper chuckled. The dry, knowing kind of laugh that belongs to someone who's already 5 steps ahead. Good. Now let's make it official. By the next morning, the paperwork was in motion. Harper drafted her response with surgical precision, each sentence lined with quiet authority. She'd seen it before, people who confuse entitlement with strategy. 3 days later, a courier arrived at my office. Inside the envelope, divorce papers, filed by Liam Merritt, petitioner. He was claiming spousal support, the house, the car, and half my company. Even his attorney's letterhead looked smug. I poured myself a cup of coffee, set the papers on the counter, and read every word twice. There was no sting left, only the mechanical rhythm of a plan sliding into place. That night, Emily stopped by. She took one look at my face and asked, Mom, is it happening? Yeah, I said, it's happening. She hesitated. You okay? I thought about it. The truth felt simple. I'm not sure if okay is the word, honey, but I'm prepared. Later, after Emily left, I stood at the kitchen window, watching the wind move through the trees outside. My reflection in the glass looked calm, almost detached. I remembered something my mother once said when I was a teenager watching her rebuild her credit after a failed investment. Don't wait for apologies to save you. Paperwork will. So, I poured another cup of coffee, sat at the table where Liam had delivered his ultimatum, and wrote 3 words across the bottom of Harper's email draft. File it tomorrow. Because sometimes strength doesn't look like shouting. It looks like signing your name where it matters. If there's one thing I've learned from construction, it's that demolition happens faster than design. It takes months to build something strong, and just one good swing to bring it down. 2 weeks after Liam's little kitchen performance, Harper filed our official response. She called it a defensive masterpiece, though she said it with the calm of someone who wins quietly for a living. Her letter was cold brilliance on paper. The house and Lexus were not marital assets, having been sold to my mother 6 months before the divorce filing. She attached notarized sale documents, bank transfer receipts, and the lease agreement, proving I paid rent to live in that home. Then she offered him exactly 50% of our joint checking account, just under $10,000. When Harper read it aloud, she didn't even look up from her notes. It's clean, legal, unassailable. I nodded, though a small part of me couldn't believe it had come to this, fighting over air and illusions. But Liam didn't take it quietly. 3 days later, his social media started humming. Posts about being blindsided, hidden assets, and a controlling partner. Then Tara joined in, writing this long, poetic victim piece about how some people would rather ruin you than admit they failed you. She included a selfie with a glass of Merlot and hashtags about healing. I didn't respond at first. Harper advised against it. Silence is a weapon, she said. Use it. But silence has limits, especially when lies start to stain your name. So one night, I posted a single thing. Public links to the county records showing every property sale date, notarized signatures, transfer amounts, months before Liam's filing. No commentary, no anger. Just receipts. Within hours, the narrative shifted. People started asking questions in the comments. Wait, how do you not know your own house was sold 6 months ago? Didn't she technically lease it to herself? Why are they both tagging luxury wine brands? By morning, Tara's post was gone. Liam didn't delete his, but he stopped posting entirely. A friend of mine who worked at the same bank as Nolan, Tara's new flame, told me that HR had quietly opened an internal review. Apparently, using client information to help a girlfriend's divorce plan didn't look good on a banker's record. 2 weeks later, Nolan resigned. Voluntarily, according to the press release. I wish I could say that's when things started calming down, but vindicated people are rarely peaceful ones. One Monday night, around 1:30 a.m., I woke up to the sound of metal scraping at the front door. At first, I thought it was just wind or maybe a raccoon on the porch. Then I heard voices, muffled, frantic, a man's, and then a woman's. I grabbed the bat I keep near the kitchen doorway and turned on the porch light. There they were, Liam and Tara, standing beside a locksmith who looked more terrified than either of them. Tara was in pajamas and heels. Liam's face was flushed, jaw tight. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked through the door. Tara yelled back, "We live here! He was locked out!" I called the police immediately. The locksmith backed away, hands up. I didn't know," he stammered. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived. When they asked for proof of residence, I calmly handed them a folder, my lease agreement with my mother, and a copy of her property deed. Tara's voice cracked. "This is our home. She's lying." The older officer looked at the papers, then at me. "Ma'am, according to these documents, you have no legal right to be here," he told her. "You need to leave, or we'll have to arrest you for trespassing." The silence that followed was one of the most satisfying sounds I've ever heard. Liam's expression flickered. Anger, then confusion, then shame. Tara, meanwhile, turned her fury toward me. "This isn't over," she screamed as they walked off the porch. "You think you're clever? You'll regret this." The officer gave me a sympathetic look. "Change your locks again tomorrow, just in case." After they left, I sat on the couch with Brutus, my old lab mix, and listened to the quiet. For the first time in months, it didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. 2 days later, another envelope arrived. I knew the weight before I even opened it, a restraining order. According to Tara's claim, I had been harassing her, following her car, and making threatening phone calls. I almost laughed. I'd been in Denver that entire week, attending a contractors conference. I had receipts, hotel records, timestamps, even selfies with Emily and other business owners. At the hearing, Harper laid out the proof. When the judge looked at Tara, his expression could have cut glass. "Mrs. Merritt," he said, "these are serious allegations. Are you sure you wish to continue?" Tara's lips trembled. I thought... "Motion dismissed," he said. "And be warned, filing false claims can have legal consequences." The gavel hit the bench. I felt my shoulders loosen for the first time in weeks. Outside the courthouse, Harper turned to me. "You know, some people fight for money," she said. "Others fight because they can't stand losing control. She's the latter, and those people, they never quit clean." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about that word, control. Liam had lost his job, his image, and now his narrative. Tara had lost her audience. Together, they were desperate to rewrite the story again. But for the first time, I realized something. I didn't need to win this war. I just needed to outlast it. And that, I already knew how to do. Courtrooms are strange places. They smell faintly of paper and disinfectant, But the real scent, the one that clings to your clothes when you walk out, is tension. Old, recycled tension that's been left behind by every couple who once swore they'd never end up there. Our hearing was set for a Tuesday morning at 10. I arrived with Harper, both of us dressed in what she called controlled confidence. Black, minimal, unshakable. She carried a single folder. I carried a heartbeat steady enough to fool anyone who didn't know me. Liam was already seated when we walked in. He looked smaller than I remembered, nervous, pale, tapping his fingers against his thigh. Tara sat beside him, all in black, as if mourning something she hadn't yet realized was gone. Their lawyer kept straightening his tie, the kind of man who probably practices winning arguments in the mirror. Judge Carter, mid-60s, took the bench with the energy of a man who had seen every flavor of domestic chaos and stopped being impressed decades ago. The proceedings began. Liam's lawyer stood and started with his opening. How I had systematically concealed assets, how I'd manipulated financial records to disadvantage my spouse, and how these transfers of property were fraudulent in anticipation of divorce. It was all rehearsed drama, the kind meant to sound criminal instead of strategic. I felt Harper's presence beside me, still, sharp, patient. When the judge nodded for her turn, Harper rose like precision given human form. "Your Honor," she began, voice steady and clear, "what opposing counsel calls concealment, we call preparation. Legal, documented preparation." She placed 3 neatly labeled binders on the table in front of the judge. Exhibits A through C, property sale contracts, bank records, notarized transfer receipts, and county filings. Each time-stamped, verified, and executed 6 months prior to the petitioner's filing. The room grew quiet except for the slow creak of leather chairs. Judge Carter adjusted his glasses. 6 months prior? "Yes, Your Honor," Harper said. "At fair market value, not a dollar undervalued." Liam's lawyer tried to interrupt. "Your Honor, we contend these were sham transactions between family members." "Objection overruled," Harper said smoothly. "The payments were full and traceable. Mrs. Helen's mother is a retired financial controller. You'll find her transaction logs impeccable." Tara shot me a look across the room, somewhere between panic and disbelief. The judge flipped through the pages, frowning deeper with each turn. "Mrs. Merritt," he said, addressing Tara, "did you know about these transactions?" I knew her mother helped sometimes," she stammered, "but not the details." "So you didn't review your own household finances for 6 months?" "I trusted Liam to handle it," Tara replied quickly. "We had an agreement." Judge Carter's brow arched. "You trusted him to handle it, but you now accuse her of hiding it. That's inconsistent." Liam's face drained of color. Harper sat down, crossing her legs casually, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. "This is the part where they start realizing the hole they dug." The next 40 minutes were a blur of exhibits and clarifications. Harper presented documentation for every sale, every deposit, every lease payment. She even produced comparable neighborhood appraisals showing that the house had been sold at market value, not undervalued, to disguise ownership. The judge leaned back, tapping his pen. "I see no indication of fraud here. The petitioner's claim lacks evidence." Liam's lawyer looked as though someone had pulled the floor from under him. He mumbled something about intent, but even he didn't sound convinced. Finally, Judge Carter delivered his ruling. The property known as 2450 Lakeview Drive remains the legal possession of Mrs. Helen's mother, having been purchased at fair market value prior to this divorce. The Lexus, same. The renovation business remains separate property, established before marriage, with no contribution from the petitioner. The joint checking account shall be divided equally. He paused, then added, "Spousal support is awarded at $750 per month for 1 year. Each party will bear their own legal costs." Silence, the kind that only happens when a verdict lands like a hammer on a bell. Harper nodded once, satisfied. I exhaled. Across the aisle, Tara's expression melted. First disbelief, then something uglier. Regret, maybe, or humiliation. Liam just stared at the table, unable to look up. The judge closed the file. "Mrs. Helen," he said, glancing my way, "your documentation was exemplary. You are free to go." Outside the courthouse, the wind was sharp enough to sting. Harper handed me my copy of the judgment and smiled. "Flawless," she said. "You planned faster." I looked at her, then at the horizon where the courthouse steps met the pale Colorado sky. "I didn't plan to win," I said quietly. "I just planned not to drown." She smiled wider. Same thing some days. As we walked toward the parking lot, I caught a glimpse of Liam and Tara on the courthouse steps behind us. They weren't fighting. They weren't even speaking. Just standing there, small against the wide marble columns, realizing that the empire they built on deception had nothing to stand on anymore. I got into my truck and started the engine. In the passenger seat, Harper's folder sat open to the page stamped "Final Ruling." The wind caught the corner of the paper and flipped it once, like the universe itself was turning a page. 3 months after the court ruling, my mornings started to feel like mine again. No more emails from attorneys, no more sleepless nights calculating what I might lose next. The house was quiet, still, but this time, it was the kind of quiet that didn't bite back. When the divorce finalized, Harper called to tell me. "It's official," she said, her tone carrying the soft satisfaction of a long-fought war. "Tara gets her $750 a month for a year. After that, nothing." I thanked her, though the words felt too small for what she'd done. Then she added, "Your mom's ready to sell the house back to you, same price she paid." That stopped me. "Even though it's worth more now?" "She insisted," Harper said. Said something about fairness being a full circle. I laughed quietly. "That's Mom." The deal closed within 2 weeks. Standing at the county recorder's office, I signed the purchase papers for the second time. Same address, same plot, different life. The clerk stamped it with a heavy thud, and just like that, the house was mine again. Clean. Legal. Untouchable. I spent the next few weeks gutting the kitchen. The same kitchen where Liam had sat, calm and smug, listing everything he thought he could take from me. I tore out the cabinets with my own hands. Emily helped paint the new ones, bright white with brushed steel handles. "You're scary when you're focused," she joked one afternoon. "I'm peaceful when I'm rebuilding," I told her. Business was booming. Clients called nonstop. Emily had taken over client management, and for the first time in years, I was working because I wanted to, not because I was trying to prove something. Evenings were simple. Takeout on the new deck, Brutus snoring at my feet, the sky bleeding gold into dusk. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the sliding door and barely recognize her, the woman who'd once begged silence to mean safety. Now, silence meant freedom. Then, one afternoon, I found it. A single postcard wedged among bills and flyers. Desert landscape. Postmarked Phoenix, Arizona. No return address. Just a few words in a handwriting I'd know anywhere. "You won. Hope it was worth it." No signature. Didn't need one. I stared at it for a while. The handwriting trembled. Not the elegant loops Tara used to flaunt on those handwritten dinner invites. It looked rushed, angry, or maybe just tired. I put the card on the counter next to my coffee mug and watched steam blur the ink a little. For a moment, I did feel something. Not victory, not even satisfaction. Just closure with rough edges. Because she wasn't wrong. I had won. Just not in the way she meant. I didn't take her things. I took back my peace. Later that evening, I walked outside with the postcard in one hand and a lighter in the other. The sun was folding itself into the horizon, painting everything copper and kind. I crouched by the fire pit and set the edge of the card aflame. The paper curled, blackened, and turned to ash within seconds. Brutus barked once, startled by the crackle. "Yeah," I said, stroking his head. "We're done with that chapter." Inside, Emily had left a small note on the fridge. "Dinner at Mom's? She's making pot roast." I smiled. The women in my family didn't crumble. We recalculated. That night, over dinner, my mom raised her glass of wine. "To well-placed paperwork," she said. I laughed. "To Harper Lee," Emily added. Mom winked. "To Benita Helen, who finally learned that protection isn't paranoia, it's wisdom." I didn't say much, just clinked glasses and let the moment sit. When I drove home, the house glowed faintly from the porch lights I'd installed myself. Brutus bounded ahead as if he knew we were finally safe. In the driveway, I stood for a long time, listening to the crickets, feeling the weight of everything I'd let go. People think revenge is loud. Doors slammed, words shouted, lives ruined. But real revenge is quiet. It's walking through a house that once tried to break you and realizing you rebuilt it better. I didn't ruin Liam's life. I just stopped letting him ruin mine. And maybe that's what peace really is, what's left standing when you stop needing to win.